to welcome our viewers to the Johnson City Government Information Channel on Charter Cable Channel 192 and Comcast Cable Channel 17 to this live telecast of March 21st, 2017 Johnson City Regional Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will be rebroadcast on Friday, March 24th at 12 p.m. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we'll start with our invocation and pledge of allegiance by Commissioner Roden.
Okay, let us pray. Lord of all creation, we come to you to honor you, to remind ourselves of your pivotal place in our lives. We ask for your blessings on this meeting. We ask that your wisdom would guide us as we seek to accomplish the goals on today's agenda. Thank you for the opportunities you give us to serve you and to serve others. May our actions and our attitudes please you this day. We pray these things in your mighty name. Amen. Let's face the flag and do the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda will be approval of the agenda. Motion to approve. Or any additions?
So moved.
Move second.
Second.
All in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
And next will be approval of the minutes from the February 14th, 2017 meeting. Do we have any additions, discussion, or motion for approval?
Move they be approved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
And finally, we have no unfinished business that is on our agenda today. We do have new business. First item of new business is to consider the annexation, zoning, and plan of services for 370 Austin Springs Road. And if staff is ready to present.
Yes. This annexation request is for 370 Austin Springs Road and a portion of tax map 30, parcel 131. The area being requested for annexation is approximately 6.5 acres. Currently there's one dwelling unit on 370 Austin Springs Road, and the portion of tax map 30, parcel 131 is currently vacant property. Currently has a population of 4 with a school age population of 2. Staff recommends approval of the annexation due to its falling within the city's urban growth boundary and is able to be serviced by existing utilities.
Thank you very much. Do we have anybody here wishing to speak for or against this annexation? If you'll go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
Chris Raymond, 370 South Austin Springs Road. This is our primary residence, and we've got 2 small children, maybe more on the way. And primary request for annexation is so that we can send our children to a very good city school, Johnson City. So,
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the matter? In that case, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and call for discussion. Do we have any motions or discussion?
So no comments were received.
No, they were not. Signs were placed on the property notifying the public of annexation. Staff has not received any calls.
It should be noted just for informational purposes that there is, I guess, an unusual geometry that we have here where we are crossing properties. It does make it a continuous annexation with the request and permission of the property owners involved, correct?
That's correct.
So it passes muster for our annexation laws that way just fine.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I just have a question on city services. With the current main driveway is gravel, is that correct?
That's correct.
Oh, it is
Oh,
asphalt?
I'm sorry.
Okay. Can a fire truck get up it if there was any unfortunate incidents? If you don't mind.
yeah, we purchased the property 4 years ago, and at the time we had dumpster removal services come through there when we remodeled. So, to my understanding, a fire truck could access the property.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, a second.
Second.
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlich?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
And Chairman Sines.
Yes. Next item on the new business agenda is to consider the rezoning request number 1019 for 2340 People Street.
This rezoning is approximately 1.46 acres. You can see on the map here, property on the other side of People Street is zoned PB, planned business, and the rest of the property surrounding is zoned R3. The Johnson City Land Use Plan designates this area for both residential and office uses, and existing utilities are available and adequate for the proposed use. The petitioner did hold the required neighborhood meeting, and staff did receive a phone call from one resident in the adjoining Town Acres neighborhood, just inquiring, requesting information about the rezoning. There was no support or opposition expressed at that time, and that same person did attend the neighborhood meeting to get information as well. We are recommending approval of this rezoning due to the land use plan, the fact that the request is not out of character with the surrounding area. There are offices in the immediate area, and the request will not create a burden on our existing utilities. The concept plan that's required does show the location of the proposed office building with one point of ingress and egress onto People Street with parking and proposed stormwater basin, and also a point of connection which would be for the parcel next door, so that when it develops you would have that interconnectivity between the parking areas. And again, we are recommending approval. May I answer any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Charles. Any questions for staff?
There's also a deceleration lane.
Yes, yes, sir.
Provided.
There will be.
No further questions? Thank you very much. Do we have any further public comment at this time regarding the approval or denial of this rezoning request?
Good evening. I'm David LaFemin, 1112 Joe Hill Drive. I'm here on behalf of the owner and the petitioner. We're very excited. Johnson City Insurance, after 100 years of supporting this area, is ready to grow, and we're looking at putting in a new 11,700 square foot office building. And obviously the interstate exposure will be nice, just like it's been for AAA down the street. It's really a better fit for offices than it is for multifamily use. Obviously, somebody living against the interstate, having 48,000 vehicle trips a day moving through there. People Street is designed as a collector, and it can easily handle it. It's only carrying about 7,500 trips a day right now, so there's a nice break. And I know the long-term plans for the city will be to look at trying to get a signalized light, I think, at Browns Mill and People Street. Like we talked about, it fits with the land use in the area. It's probably a better use than what it's currently zoned for. It will only leave the one additional track that's between the site back to the MS1, where Minchcox is developing 2 office buildings currently. And I think you'll probably see a continuation and another request sometime in the future when Walt Harbor has somebody that wants to do an office building up on top there. That lower section down in here is all city-owned property.
So these won't show up on the television.
Oh, sorry. These 2 tracks right here on both sides of People Street are all detention. And it basically takes all the runoff water that comes from Browns Mill Villa, and it comes here, and then it goes through a box culvert here and comes to this other side. So there's a natural stopping point, I guess, is what I'm getting to, the planned business with what's already in place. Of course, we've had some interest further up the street. Last year when we worked on Dr. Elliott's proposal to do Browns Mill Professional Village, we wish we had the interest to get it off the ground at the time. The neighborhood seemed to be excited about it. But professional businesses and offices make great neighbors for residential communities. So we would ask for your support tonight. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No? Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the rezoning? I'll go ahead and close the public comment at this time and open the floor for discussion. Commission.
I think it's consistent with what's across the road. I mean, that's.
And down the
that's
road,
exact-
yeah.
And down the road too, so
it
I mean,
fits.
that's exactly what we wanted to happen along that road.
Okay. Any
Make a motion to be approved.
motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Henry? And a second down here from, who said it first? All right.
No, you
And please call the roll.
I didn't say.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlik?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes. Next order of business is to consider the abandonment of the 5-foot control strip on KLM Drive.
Yes, sir. This request comes before you because Planning Commission is the only board that can grant removal of the 5-foot control strip. The property that is being impacted is a 2.7 acre lot, zoned B4. The petitioner is Rogers Development. Currently, the 5-foot control strip is required at the end of all street stubs. The intent of which is to prevent undesirable land uses from entering the subdivision and to prevent any action that would prevent the eventual street extension. Staff recommends abandoning the 5-foot control strip due to the fact that the petitioner is providing a transportation easement to the property directly behind it, giving it access to Old Grade Station Road.
Does that transportation easement already exist?
Currently, it's a flag lot. The lot 1 there on your paper actually connects to Old Gray Station Road and KLM. However, their access would be to Old Gray Station. They are creating the transportation easement to allow lot 5 to be able to have access. And in the B4, that is allowed.
In staff's opinion, the width of that easement for the new transportation easement under Gold Gray Station Road is adequate?
It is. I mean, it is the complete width of what the actual flag lot is to get the access up there. So, I mean, it is enough to support.
Okay. Any further questions for staff? Yes, sir.
By doing this, is there any type of buffer that's would have to be put in place, or are we good?
The buffer that would be put in place would be the standard development buffer that you would see in a landscape, in our landscape plan. Just whenever anyone would have to come to develop the property, they would have to provide anyway to the surrounding area. The entire area is B4 currently. So if there was a buffering, it'd be more with your landscape yard around your parking areas, things of that nature.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
Any further questions for staff?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Jumped ahead of you.
You like second?
Do we have any public comment on the retention or abandonment of this control strip? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to discussion. Go
Move to
ahead.
approve.
Move to approve in a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lowe?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict?
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlik?
Yes.
Commissioner Henning?
Yes.
And Chairman Zion.
Yes. Okay, our next item on the agenda is to consider the approval for a planned unit development at 1313 Patrick Drive. Would staff like to go ahead and present to us what we're thinking about with this one?
Yes, that's fine. This is, as you said, a request for a planned unit development approval of a 2-unit, half-an-acre multifamily development currently located on 1313 Patrick Drive. The petitioner is Tim O'Neill. The property is currently zoned R4 medium density residential. The development conforms to sections 3.4.1.4 for multifamily planned unit development within the subdivision regulations of Johnson City. The planning department and water sewer department have reviewed the development and recommend approval. The request meets all subdivision regulations requirements, and staff recommends the planning commission grant planned unit development approval conditioned on a note being added to the plat that Lot 3 cannot be sold as a standalone lot. As you see, Lot 3 appears marked right now as the common area, and we're asking that not be allowed to be, to make it known on the plat that it cannot be sold as a standalone lot. It's unbuildable, and it would need to go with one of the other two.
And what you're saying is, being unbuildable, it would not stand as a plat that would meet R4 requirements for a subdivision in that area for setbacks and accessibility. Is that correct? Or is that not actually eloquent enough for that? It simply doesn't meet the...
It will not meet the standards to be able to be built upon.
There you go.
In terms of terrain or
And, well, and I
topography?
think that's what we're asking, the specific standards that it doesn't meet. Just so
Is
we
it
know
terrain, topography, what is it?
I think the subdivision regulations for Johnson City in defining a planned unit development says it's a development of one or more buildings, in this case we have one, offering space for sale, rent or lease, so he can sell both units, offering space for sale, rent or lease, in which instance the unit includes the portion of the structure comprising the unit, that's the building itself, and the platted lot of land beneath the unit. So the platted lot of land, which in this case is lot 3, is part of the land beneath lot 1 and lot 2. All that have to go together to meet the definition of a planned unit development. If you were to sell lot 3 to some other person, and then lot 3, it's no longer together by that act of sale with lot 1 and 2, it will no longer meet the definition of a planned unit development. So by putting it together, saying you cannot sell lot 3 as a standalone lot, it is preserved as a planned unit development.
Okay, so that keeps us in the definition of what a planned unit development is.
Yes,
By keeping the lot 3 as a common area.
as a common area. Yes.
And okay, so if they didn't have a plan, I'm just curious, wanted to work this out.
If they
a
didn't
plan-
have that lot 3,
If they didn't have a planned unit development, could you have a lot 3 there that would still make sense, or no?
no, if you didn't have that lot 3, you cannot call it a PUD, basically. If you didn't have that lot 3, you could not call it a PUD. It would simply be a duplex. You simply look at it like a duplex. If a duplex is permitted in that district, which in this case it is.
Okay. What is it?
So if it were a duplex, could you add another unit?
If you were a duplex, just as a duplex, the problem with it being a duplex is he cannot sell off the units to separate owners.
Right.
If it were a duplex. So if the intent of the property owner is to sell lot 1 and lot 2 as separate units to
Can't do
different
that.
property owners, in a case of a duplex, you cannot do that.
Okay. So he's trying to get them out.
Very good.
I'm confused. If you've got two different pieces of property that, if we approve this, that can be sold separately,
Yes.
is that correct? I thought I heard you say that if you sold one of them, the common land would go with it.
If you were to
I
sell
don't think
lot
that's
1
correct, is it?
If you were to sell lot 1, it will have to be written in the deed that the common area is part of that lot 1. The owner of the person buying lot 1 can use that common area.
And
If you
lot
were to
two.
sell
Can
lot
use-
2,
And lot 2.
Oh,
And
the
lot
deed,
Yes, it will
okay.
have to be put in the
But the
deed.
same is going to apply for lot 2 also. They
Yes,
have
they have
the
full
same
rights.
rights
The
to it
same
as lot
rights.
1. Fair
Yes.
enough.
So where does that all get written down? I mean, I understand what we're talking
That
about.
would make
Where's
sense.
all it gonna be
It
written?
should be a homeowner association or condominium declaration that is recorded.
Yeah, so
And-
how are we prohibiting the sale of lot 3 as a standalone unit?
We prohibit it on the plat.
On the plat
On the
itself?
plat, yes. They will add a note on the plat simply saying lot 3 cannot be sold as a standalone
It
lot.
needs to be taken off the plat correctly. The lot 3
Lot-
term.
The
needs
word
to-
lot 3 needs to be
It
go.
just
Needs to be
it
taken
needs to be
off.
not lot 3, it just needs to
And
be
instead of
common.
lot 1 and 2, it ought to be called unit 1 and
One,
unit
unit
2
two.
if you do proper homeowners association condominium documents. That's the way it would refer. I'd like to see what those documents look like, because the potential is you could also have somebody adding another unit back behind those two based on a PUD. There's no restriction to using more. You know, the homeowner association could be loose enough to allow that. We have no protection against that right now.
I think at that time, if they were to add another unit to it, then that would not be in conformity with the plat itself. So they'll have to come back before the commission.
They'd have to come back.
Yeah, they'll have to come back before the commission.
I-
The commission
yeah,
can turn it
and-
down at that time based on things like the density, how much area you need to have.
How many stories are these duplexes? I haven't looked at them, so do we know
How
how
many
many?
stories?
Is it one story, two story?
One story.
One story,
It's
okay.
one story. And with the use of the word lot in it, I kind of checked. Johnson City just says, by the definition of a lot, it says a lot is a platted parcel of land, that's all. So if you plat a parcel of land, it calls it a lot. So once you get a parcel of land and you plat it, it means the definition of a lot. So we don't have any other requirements like in the definition of a lot, you need to put this or put that. No, we just say once you plat a piece of land, you can call it a lot.
And the reason that that land has to stay a part of the PUD there is because of the setbacks and the definitions requirements for the PUD.
For the PUD.
And just what you need there. Question, if they did not want to turn this into a PUD, but just to go ahead and make plat a lot 3, could they do that here in an R4 in this situation? I mean, is that even a platable lot 3 on
Could
its
you
own?
pose the question again, sir?
Yeah, this is sort of exploring knowledge, okay, or exposing ignorance. And that's fine. And I'm okay with that, because I'd rather make sure I understood it completely. Let's say we didn't go for an R3. I mean, he didn't ask for a PUD at all, but he was just asking to be able to cut off the back of that lot and make it a lot 3, or lot 1, you know. Would that pass any R4 regulations there?
So if he just wanted to cut like this
Yep.
and make this a separate lot,
Exactly.
he could not do that
Because of access concerns.
because of others.
And so that
And
applies with
setback.
that's what I'm getting at, this whole concern for access to it, not just the relation to the PUD, correct?
That is part of it.
So, and that's another reason why we probably shouldn't call this a lot. It should be attached as a commons area in the description.
It should be a common area and unit.
Right,
That's the
okay.
definition.
Thank you, okay, that makes sense. So there's some discussion here.
Yeah, I still had a question about the perimeter setbacks. If we don't have it in our zoning ordinance for a PUD, that there's a continuous, like a 25-foot perimeter setback, we need to get it into the ordinance. The danger of it is that you could get a PUD project where everybody creeps onto the side yard setbacks of 9 feet or whatever it is, and making a major bad impact on an adjacent subdivision, for example, single-family subdivision. The idea for multifamily with a 25-foot perimeter setback is to keep a high-density project contained away from single-family and create a setback no matter which way the units are turned. So I'd like to have staff explore that a little bit more.
I think if I were to respond to that, sir,
Sure.
there is, this particular case is in the R4 zoning district. There is is it 8 feet or 10 feet side yard setback requirement. They have to meet that. What there is no side yard setback requirement for is between the units. So let's say we call this unit 1 and this unit 2. Unit 1 doesn't need to be side setback from unit 2. But
No, it just has a common wall.
yeah, it just has a common wall.
That's why it should be called a unit.
But
With a zero lot line.
from the end of this building to the lot line, there is a setback requirement
And that is.
in that particular zone.
Right,
Yeah.
and what is that setback?
It's by the zone.
8
It's an
feet. 8
R4
feet.
right now.
10, I think it's 10. Because I live in one. I think
It
it's 10.
depends on whether it's a 1-story or 2-story. If it's a 2-story, you creep up some more with a setback.
I think it's 10. I think it's 10.
I think it
We
is.
can double check. I think it's 10. We can
Yeah, I
double
know it's
check.
25 in the front. Yeah, and I think it's 10 on the sides. In the back, it's 8.
8 feet.
That's even worse.
Maybe we can look at carry out the study
yeah,
and
I
see
wanna look at
if
it.
it is sufficient.
As a tradition, even in Johnson City, I've always had a 25-foot setback on PUDs. I've done them in
Side-
Sevier County, and I've done it in other counties in northeast Tennessee. It's always been a 25-foot, because then you keep the integrity of the PUD. And you always call the units, and you keep the common land for the rest of it. And it needs to have a good documentation with it that's also recorded. I'm questioning, is there documentation with this approval? Not that we have to review it, I'd just like to know that there is. That also gets recorded, because if it's not, it's gonna be a problem for whoever buys those units.
Just to be sure, are we talking about something like the homeowners association agreement? Is
Yeah,
that the documentation?
yeah, restrictions, and homeowners association condominium documents, basically.
Okay. So I think what you're saying is you'd like to have those condominium documents to review to make sure that this program
I'd like
is
to know that they
consistent with
exist.
what they have.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
don't go calling something a PUD and then sell the unit without any protection for the general public.
Thank you. Now, Angie, my understanding is that there is no, when you look at the description of PUD in R4 for our city, it doesn't specifically define a 25-foot setback or anything like that for PUDs. Is that correct?
We can't enforce covenants. We're not allowed to enforce covenants or to look at them as if they were legal. That's completely private. So
Okay.
we don't acknowledge those.
Very good. Sorry.
Well, is there a chicken and egg, though? I mean, how can we turn it into a PUD if those don't exist?
If I might add, and I apologize if some of you already know this, and subdivision, if you look real closely.
Can you use the mouse, Alan?
Sure, if you look
please?
real closely, the driveways are part of Lot 3.
Common
All right, so the boundary of Lot 2 is right across the front of the building and back around the sides, and then right up the middle. That's Lot 2's boundary.
Basically, the footprint of
So they're parking on the common property.
Common area, yeah,
So it has to be common, or else they don't own their parking space.
that's correct.
All right?
Thank you.
He doesn't understand.
Okay,
Could
so
be paint to paint, whatever.
does staff have any recommendations for us for consideration at this point to conclude?
Is the owner here?
I think the recommendation, which because we don't have powers to review or to enforce those private covenants, staff will state a recommendation that these be approved on condition that a note be added on the plat stating that Lot 3 cannot be sold as a standalone lot. If they were to do that, they'll be taking away the parking space, for example, that he's talking about.
Just remove the label Lot 3. It's already identified as
Just
common
leave it as a
area.
common area.
Yeah.
So we approve it then on two conditions. One, remove the label lot, just leave it as as common area. And secondly, simply indicate there that, well, if you remove the word lot, then you don't even need a note saying Lot 3
Right.
doesn't have this.
Just
common
eliminate.
Exactly. It's
So we just remove the word lot, and that Lot 3. And that's
So okay, thank you very much. Do we have any further questions for staff? Thank you. And by the way, this is our first meeting with Asong. You just joined us from Greenville, welcome.
Hey.
I think both of those notes need to be on there, both the restricted, put the common area and the one restricting a separate conveyance of it. Because even though it would say common area, there's nothing that we're doing that's vesting in the owners of lots 1 and 2 the right to use that common area. Right? Does that make sense? So in order for us to achieve what we're talking about, I think we've got to have both of those notations on the plat. I mean, one of the notations being removal of Lot 3, the other simply being that you cannot convey it.
Well, that's why I say you've got to have condominium documents.
Right.
They would clarify
There's
it.
nothing before us to approve
No.
or disapprove on that regard.
Right.
So in
So
order
you'd have to have
to
that
achieve our goal, I
restricted.
think you still need to have that on there.
Restricted covenant on the deed for that.
Well, on the plat.
On the plat.
We can't control the deed.
Okay, all right. Any further questions for staff this time? No. Thank you, Asong. Do we have anybody here wishing to speak for or against this item on the agenda? No. Okay, seeing that, we'll close public comment and open it back up again for the commission. And seeing what we want to do for it, do we have any specific motions or further discussion?
Move we approve based on two items. One, remove the wording Lot 3, and then two, add a note saying that the common area cannot be sold or developed separately. Is that
Okay.
close, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second from Commissioner Luke. So, any further discussion? No, please go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Lau,
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey,
No.
Commissioner Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict,
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlich,
Yes.
Commissioner Hennig,
No.
and Chairman Zayas.
Yes. Okay. Final item on the new business agenda is to consider the final plat approval for Garland Farms Phase 4.
Yes, thank you. This is, as you said, request for final plat approval, Garland Farms Phase 4, which is a 27-lot, 19.5-acre subdivision located off Shadden Road. The property is currently zoned R2, and the petitioner is Michael Garland. Garland Farms Estates was originally approved in February 1996, and the petitioner received preliminary approval in June 2015. They're now asking for final approval. The petitioner has already provided a bond in the amount of $139,000 to complete the remaining work that is yet to be done. In addition to this, staff would ask that a few minor clerical errors, comments from water sewer be addressed on the final plat. Otherwise, staff recommends final plat approval for Garland Farms Phase 4.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? You said there's some extra improvements on the lot?
Well, there's some minor, just minor notes. I believe that on the alleys, it shows that currently it shows that they're 15 feet. Well, the developer actually made them a little wider, made them 20 feet, so we need that corrected on there. Small things like that need to be fixed. However, they didn't see glaring red flags that need to hold this up, other than fixing some things on the actual plat itself.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Do we have any further public comment for or against the plat approval? Seeing none, we'll close that. Open for discussion or motions.
I move we approve it.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lowe,
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Benedict,
Yes.
Commissioner Pavlich,
Yes.
Commissioner Hennig,
Yes.
and Chairman Zayas.
Yes. And we have no informational items on the agenda tonight, so we are ready. Need a motion for adjournment. Moved. Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Close.
No, it doesn't work on the screen.